Bonjour Africa, welcome to Bite-Sized Democracy, a weekly show focusing on issues around democracy in Africa. This show gives you a snapshot of what's happening on the African continent in fun, informative and bite-sized segments. Today we'll be talking about the West African nation that is Gabon. Please do join us in conversation. Our hashtag is BSDemocracy, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, the African Democratic Institute. On today's show, my co-host is Clemmy. Welcome to the show, Clemmy.
Hello, thanks for having me. So as you said, we're going to be talking about Gabon today since a lot is going on this month there. First off, they're going to celebrate 56 years of independence on August 17. Congratulations, Gabon. And on the 27th, they're going to have their presidential election. And it's a big event in Gabon. The last one happened in 2009, and they were highly controversial since Ali Bongo was elected, and he was the son of Omar Bongo, who was in power for 42 years before he died in 2009. And one of the reasons why his candidacy was also controversial is because he decided to remain in his position in the transitions governments instead of leaving as the other candidates did before the campaign. And nowadays people still remember the controversies of the 2009 election, and this is why most of Ali Bongo's opponents are trying their best to invalidate his candidacy. They are accusing him of corruption and of keeping all the wealth of the country for himself, which was also a big issue with Omar Bongo. And one of their main arguments for invalidating his candidacy is to pretend that he was adopted and that therefore he wouldn't deserve his Gabonese nationality and his candidacy would be anti-constitutional.
You know, speaking of his opponents, one of the people who's challenging him for presidency is Jean Ping, who was the AU chairperson from 2008 to 2014, and he also served in the government of his father, Omar Bongo. And you know, Gabon is one of those countries where activists are arrested, even without an arrest warrant, and just taken to jail for just criticizing the government. And you know, it's really impressive to see a person like Jean Ping come up, they put himself forward to serve the people of Gabon. And he was actually the Gabonese government filed a complaint against him, saying, because he put out a video on social media where he said after the election he's going to get rid of all the cockroaches, and he's actually been summoned to court, but he's refused to go to court. And you know, I really have hope for this election, and I can't wait to see the outcome of this election.
Definitely. And you'll be able to follow those elections thanks to an app that was designed by a Gabonese living in Canada called Regab, which will provide live updates and real counting results. And it's a really cool tool because it will help to trace and document fraud, and it's also good for youth empowerment since young people will be the one going to the field and collect information without having any contact with government commissions.
You know, speaking of young people and technology, you know, social media has really, which is a product of technology, has really taken over on the African continent. And you can see young people are developing apps, which is really impressive. You know, this enhances democracy in Africa. And you know, as I was going through the social media streets, you know, on Twitter, and hashtag caught my eye, which is hashtag Zambia Decides. And you know, it was so interesting to see that a lot of people, even lots of young Africans, even those who are not Zambian, all over the world, were following the election, what's happening in Zambia. You know, social media has really made us one big country. You know, everybody's concerned about what's happening in everybody else's country. Here are some interesting tweets I found on the hashtag Zambia Decides. Thanks to the UPND, guardians of the ballot boxes, for making sure this election was not rigged. You are great. Hashtag Zambia Decides. And then our AU chairperson, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, tweeted, I call for peaceful, credible, transparent, free and fair elections as Zambians elect their president, MPs and council reps. Hashtag Zambia Decides.
But young people also do need inspiring figure, and one of them would be Mark Ona Esangui from Gabon as well, who really worked hard on the cause that were appealing to him, and he's especially inspiring because he's in a wheelchair since he was 6.
Wow.
And because of that he couldn't attend law school, so instead he decided to campaign for a lot of causes in Gabon, primarily handicapped people being able to go wherever they want, and secondly working hard on protecting the rainforest. But also, what's interesting us the most, he was part of an initiative called Publish What You Pay, which is campaigning for electoral and government transparency. And that's especially an issue right now since he's the most credible and the most feared detractor of the government, as he is also accusing the government from corruption, since he recently argued that they are allocated more lands than necessary to big mining companies which participate to destroy the rainforest, which is trying so hard to protect.
You know, it's great to see someone take up the cause of miners, because exactly 4 years ago, on this day, in Marikana, the South African Police Services opened fire on protesting miners and killed 34 miners and injured 78. You know, it's been seen as the most brutal act of violence since the end of the apartheid era. It was such a big thing in South Africa, and I think a lot of commissions have been established to find out exactly what happened. So it's great to see somebody in another part of Africa, you know, taking up the cause of mine workers.
And this reminds me of a quote by Guy Zumba Dama, an opponent to Ali Bongo in Gabon, who advocates for actions from the government, but action for the people, on the side of the people and not against them. And it says, si gouverner, c'est communiquer, les femmes et les hommes politiques devraient avant tout agir, c'est-à-dire changer le cours des événements et produire des résultats tangibles. Voilà par quoi ils devraient commencer pour regagner la confiance des peuples.
I'm sure that was very profound, because it sounded very nice. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much, Clemmy, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today.
Join us again next week for another exciting, fun-packed episode. Au revoir, Africa.